Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So welcome to the webinar today hosted by Data Pilot, a full stack data company. We are here to host any and every data need that your company might have to make you use your data to its full potential in collaboration with a global name that needs no introduction, a permanent constant in all of our lives today, which is Microsoft. And this webinar is going to be about analytics and AI-powered customer experience. Next slide. So the hosts of this webinar are me, Alina Iqtidar. I head the data-driven marketing function at Data Pilot. I'm a former LUMS grad and then a Fulbright scholar with Northwestern University. I have a history of corporate work and startups, and now I'm with Data Pilot. And on the other hand, we have Ali Moses. He is the Chief Executive Officer at Data Pilot. He is an IBA grad, a University of Illinois grad, and he's ex-NetSol and is very well known in the data ecosystem. Moving on today to the main person, the guest of honor, which is Talila. Talila is the data and AI marketing manager at Microsoft, and we just recently discovered that we're both Fulbright scholars. So I think her name needs no introduction here as well. I'm just going to run you through the structure of this webinar. And the structure goes like we introduce you, then we talk about the pillars of customer experience. We do talk about the importance of data-driven customer experience, where analytics, AI, and automation play a role, the pitfalls that we expect and how to avoid them, and how Data Pilot can empower your marketing efforts. Then we will move on to the Q&A. If during this time you have any questions, Ali Moses, the co-host with me today, will be monitoring all the questions that you have in the chat, and we will at the end give you time to ask your questions and get your queries sorted. Now I would give the floor over to the speaker, and let's begin.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me well? Right? Thumbs up, I guess. Alina, if there's nothing, just let me know because I was hearing you well. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I'm happy and honored to be able to share with you a perspective on this very important topic called customer experience. I myself have been in the AI and analytics field for a while, and hopefully I can share with you some reality of the topic, as well as some real life examples, and as well as the ambition, etc. So first of all, why are we talking about this topic, and why I assume you chose to join us today to hear about it? Well, it's because nowadays customer acquisition, and more importantly customer retention, has become more and more competitive. I guess you all know that, and a lot of the CEOs of companies have come to their chief marketing officers and asked them, okay, what can we do about it? What about this customer experience things? A lot of CMOs and marketing people have been asking themselves, okay, there is this customer thing, apparently customer experience thing can help us retain and acquire more customers. How do we do about that? And I assume we also have in the audience people in the system integrators, data scientists, data analysts, CEOs of IT companies also, who have been trying to cater to those CEOs and marketing experts to try to answer this question. So hopefully the talk that we have for you today is gonna cater to everybody across the different spectrum, across the different expertise, and hopefully you'll get good knowledge out of it. So before we start, the very first thing is, what is a customer experience, right? And what is the first thing that comes to your mind as you hear this word? And I am looking at the chat right now, so feel free to post couple words, couple comments or things that come to your mind when you hear the word customer experience. I'd love to see what you actually think about it. Just give you like 5 seconds. 3, 5, just to see a little bit what you all think. But in the meantime, if you take all the different articles, researchers, and all the different definitions, they all have something in common. It's how your customers or potential customer interact with every touch point of your business. And this word every touch point is really, really important, right? So this is very, very broad. So when we say every touch point of your customer, it means that you have a way of tackling those touch points and extracting the data and knowing about how your customer has had an experience across those touch points. So the first thing that we would ask is, how do you unlock the power of your most powerful asset at that point, which is your data? Every touch point is a data point. Do you have access to all of them? Can you extract that data? Then that's the big question that can make the difference between a customer experience and no customer experience at all, right? So let me ask you a question. Another question that I like to ask customers is, do you know where your customer data is? Where is it? Where does it sit? So I'm sure that some of you on the call will be like, yes, sure, I know. It's in my CRM, right? Where else would it be? Well, now let me ask you another question then. How about the data of your customers' interactions with your business? You know, all these points of interaction. And that is where the answer becomes a little bit subdued. Yes, we have some of it, not all of it. We collect some, not really. But that is really what we're talking about, and where we need to delve a little bit more. In reality, you're not alone. Actually, if you look at those sources at the bottom, I encourage you to read them. 80% of companies report significant data silos. 80%. So that's a major issue. And this is the number of customers who are not able to provide a full picture of all their customers. So it's a common issue. It's a common problem. It's the classic problem. That's why we're tackling it today, and that's why you're interested in this topic in the first place. So in order to achieve a brand experience, and the objective here is also to achieve an authentic brand experience, which is the goal, the utopia, right? There are three things that need to happen. Sorry, I'm just trying to move this at the bottom. Okay. The first thing is you need to be able to access and unify your data. I'm just going to close my camera. Okay, good. And the second thing is that once you've collected and unified all of this data, are you able to analyze it, orchestrate it, create some predictions, etc.? And then are you able to take some actions and take some measurable KPIs out of all this data? So all of this sounds good. We will unpack it a little bit more. And what does it mean concretely? So let's look a little bit under the hood. When we say unify your data across the touch point sits all over. It's not just in your CRM. It's in the surveys that you send your customers. It's in their interactions with their mobile application, if you have one. Point of sale system. It's in the social media. It's in the different campaigns. And marketers are very good at measuring the campaigns impact that they do, loyalty program, your website, all the different devices, maybe IoT devices, etc. That's all the different, when we say different touch point of your customers, that's what we mean. So now it becomes a little bit more complex. So we need to be able to unify all of data, collect it in one way, so that we can do the analysis and prediction and the orchestration, right? And we'll delve into what these three circles here of enriching, optimizing, and creating a customer journey means. Eventually, at the end, we all want to do three things, right? We all want to unify, have this data go to our line of business, to our marketing people, salespeople, so they see one single version of truth, generate some engagements, and some of these solutions here will be familiar to you. Maybe you're using them. And then some advertising, etc., etc. So that's what we mean by unifying, activating the data. Okay, so if there's one key takeaway of how to achieve a customer experience, let alone a great customer experience, that's this slide that I want you to memorize. These are all the aspects that need to happen. So now let's move into Microsoft's perspective on how to achieve this. So when we talk about achieving customer experience, we do have a platform. We're a platform company. We offer a lot of different services. I hope some of you are using some of them. So we have a suite of products that can allow you to do different things. And we break down this customer experience into allowing you to own your customers and your relationship, to create raving fans, and to engage beyond advertisement, right? And all the things that we allow you to do is to unlock the data, honor your customers' privacy and consent, right? It's very important. Marketing efficacy, end-to-end experience, etc., etc. So all of that, a lot of buzzwords, a lot of objective things that we all want to achieve, but we'll dissect each one of them in a second. And as I said, we do have a suite that allows us to do that. So from now on, let's dive in. The how. I think we're all sold on the idea. We all want to achieve those 3 steps. How do we go about that? So let's look at the first step. Owning your customer relationship. How do you do that? The very first step, as we said, is unifying your data, unlocking that data to engage with purpose. So how do we unlock this data? Let's dig a little bit. One level under the hood. The first one is to unify the data with a complete 360-degree view of every customer and have identity management, ideally AI powered, right? A 360 view of a customer across all the touch points. That would be number 1 to achieve. Second, gaining a competitive edge with the full ownership of your customers' data. That's a big word, full ownership of customers' data, by honoring customer privacy, built-in tools that store and manage consent. We are in an era where there were a lot of issues with customer privacy, and we can remember some of them, some big names that were involved in that. Consent now is very important. Cookies are now gone, quote unquote. I mean, there's a lot of issues with them. We can just use them as we go. So customers' consent is very important. So when we say ownership of the data, it's always owning it's always having that data from customers that the customer has consented to give you in the first place, and that's a very important nuance. So let's go a little bit under the hood again, another level. How does that look like? So here what you see is, when I say customer 360 view, this is the ideal. This is what you would like to have, a view that looks like this. This is my customer here with some information, and here is the timeline of all the interaction that this lady has had with us: online orders, point of sales purchase, redeemed an offer, etc., etc. So I know all of these things about this person. I know which segments, so customer segmentation, some of you might have tried to do that and might be engaged in that. So she's a high value customer, she's a point of sale customer, etc., etc. So these are the segments she belongs to. These are the recommended products. This is her favorite order. So you can imagine this is a food retailer here or restaurant, the total orders, lifetime value, etc., etc. This is what we would like to have. Now, how do we go about that? Second step is that if we want to do that, we need to unify the identity of our customers across web, CRM, mobile, ecosystem, ideas, etc., etc. And I will show you in a second how this could happen. But that's the unification of the ID. That's a very important step. And then compliance, of course. These data source, all this data that I shared with you comes from different sources, right? Microsoft and non-Microsoft. As we see here, SAP, you see Hive, which is an open source solution, you see AWS, etc. Your solution might be scattered, so you need to ensure compliance all across, etc. Now that I shared with you all those components, and hopefully this gives you a good idea, let's go another level under the hood, right? On how, and show you a little bit of the interface and demos. So I will be doing this throughout the call, give you a high level view, and then for those of you who are like me, who like to see exactly how things go, I'll show you a bit of demos, but not too much to overwhelm you. But hopefully we can answer some of the question on the how. So when we say unlock your data to engage with purpose, what does that look like? So we have a solution called Customer Insight. You go, it's a SaaS solution, you open it, you get to see this view that looks like this. You can have your customer segment, measure, intelligence, data, etc., etc. All of this will become clear in a second. You can see that you have here some segments, so customers within 10 miles, customers with average spend, all customers, customers with open cases, yada yada. So kind of a dashboard. Now we spoke about unifying my customers. So here is where I would start. I would go to my data sources here, and I have a wealth of connectors to all the major, I would say, data sources, Microsoft and non-Microsoft. So some of these data sources you might be familiar with. We even have Fur for our healthcare customers. We have Salesforce, we have Spark, etc., etc. Okay, so that's the first thing. I connect to this data source. I bring my customers' data. That's number one. Step number two, I need to unify them. And here, I'm sure that some of you who are knowledgeable about databases, who've been creating data models for data warehouse, etc. I'm sure you've been thinking, okay, ID, primary key, I need something unique to unify across the tables. And you're right, that's exactly what we're looking for. Across the different data sources that we have, if we're looking for customer as an entity, it might look differently in different data sources that we have. We need to have a primary key, right? So for this data source that I just added, what is the primary key that I have? So customer retail ID, and then I have all the different columns that I want to add, etc., etc. So I do this for each one of my table, and this defines what is that unique ID that will be used to link across the different tables. Just like what you would do with a regular database modeling, you also can add some rules to remove duplications when you're adding your data, etc., etc. So a lot of steps. I'm skipping a lot of things, but I just want to give you the intuition of how these things go. At the end of the day, for example, here we added three sources. One source called retail system, one source is called ticketing system, another one is survey system. They all have the name of the customer, of course, called differently, different column, but they have been unified. They all have the same city, state, postal code. The name of the entity might be different, but now we unified them. So what happens here is that we have a link for that same entity customer across the different systems, and that is the base of everything that we want to do afterwards. The other thing is that we might want to enrich our data. You might have some other data about our customers, maybe from data about brand affinity. We might have some data from demographics, etc., etc. Of course, all of this data is with consent. There is no data that you should take that the customer has not consented on, but you can enrich that data from your customers so you can have a 360 view of it. At the end of the day, this is what allows you to have this view here. This is Patty, this is her information, and this is her timeline of interaction with us across surveys, purchases, applications, social, and email. And here is when she did what. I know her brand affinity. She likes ski. She likes this company called Fabricam, and she's interested in these type of items, her average spend, etc. And her churn risk is that. So when we say unify your data, this is exactly what we mean. This is a very important step, and we allow you to do it in a simplified way. At least I'm sure that some of you in the call who have attempted this exercise know how excruciating unifying data can be. So hopefully with this view, you can see how simplified we have made it, right? So now what we have, a single unified view, 360 view of our customers. Good. Now the fun begins. You see here, I have a churn risk here, so I added a machine learning model here. So now we're gonna get into the analytics and AI part, and I'm sure that all our data scientists in the call or marketers, they want to see those predictions and all that. So let's talk about that. So we want to create raving fans who will prioritize doing business with you as opposed to others because they enjoy this experience. How do you do that? You want to have a personalized experience, and you want to be able to predict trends, predict their intent, predict the next customer move so that you provide them with what they want when they want it. Okay? All that sounds good on paper. Now let's go a little bit into the details. So when we say predict customer intent and next best opportunity, what do we need to do that? We need to unlock AI models to predict customers' lifetime value and churn, right? That's number one. We need some AI-driven recommendations and discover new audience segments. We need to gain deeper insight with customer analytics for sure, and develop our own machine learning model if we have the possibility. And eventually, of course, marketers, we're all about reducing cost of acquisitions. And of course, when we launch campaigns, we need A/B testing because we don't know ahead of time what will work and whatnot. So maybe I'll pause for a second. Maybe some of you here in the call have tried some of those. And maybe if I were able to talk to you directly and potentially later on the chat, some of you may have tried, but it didn't work. And there is this phase where people are like, there was so much hype about AI, so much hype about ML, but when we try to implement it, either it doesn't work or we didn't see the ROI from it. That's a reality, and maybe you've experienced that. Well, most of the time, why that happens in the first place is because the very first step that I shared with you, the unification of the data, did not happen. We had fractured data, we didn't have all the data that was needed. So therefore, the insights that were generated were not relevant, or sometimes the model did not even converge. So hopefully with the unification step that I showed earlier, all of these would be a reality. So let's go a little bit under the hood again. So in the solution, we have the capability of having those models for example, transaction churn model here. You run it on your data and you get some performance here about your customers, and you can run it on your data and it gives you a little bit more insight. I'll give you some details on this for a second, but just hold it here. The other thing that you can do as well is also have a customer journey. So suppose you have a website here. Let's suppose we have a surface website here, and you want to know how customers evolve through the different stages in your website. So a customer goes to home. Okay, you have 100 people go to home, 1.2 million people go to home, so that's your 100% set. How many actually went to the surface detailed page? How many checked something in the cart? How many went to the checkout? And how many actually bought? So you're able to get those insights, which are critical for all the marketers, so you know how do people go throughout your website. And this conversion rate is important for you because then it allows you to see where do you lose most of the customers and make adjustments, but always looking at this number to assess whether whatever you did actually worked. Let's go to another step, which some of you might find super interesting. So this is AI models for ads activation. So you can have lookalike modeling. So what does lookalike modeling? If you have a specific customer that have some specific characteristics, so you might find in your data set of other customers that are similar. So that's a type of segmentation algorithm that you would do. Clustering, for those of you who are well versed in data science. So that's type of models that you could do. Then interest prediction is also something that you would do, so that the next best action, etc., etc. So now let's look under the hood. Let me show you a little bit what this looks like. Okay, so this is again in a platform where you see your segments. So here I have this section, segment, so I have segmented my customers. And this is a type of segmentation that is based on a machine learning model that predicts the lifetime value of customers. So here I have the 64% and above, 58% and above, 32% and above, 28% and above. So I am segmenting my customers based on that. So therefore, these are my higher value customers. These are my lower value customers. So as a marketer, I can target them differently and give them different care, etc. Where do these models come from? So you can take out of the box models, or if you have data scientists in-house, or you work with data science company, you can build your own predictive models. So here what I'm showing you is one of my favorite Microsoft products. It's called Machine Learning Studio. It allows you to build a machine learning model visually. You still need to know that you're data science, of course, but it makes the creation a lot easier. You don't need to code as much, etc., etc. So this is the lifetime value model. This is what it looks like. Just FYI for you if you've never seen this product before. But once you've run this model, you're satisfied about it, you can publish it as an API, you can consume it from our customer insight platform here, and this is what allows you to get those segments. So you can do both. You can use out of the box models, or you can create your own and consume them from the platform. So that's the first type of customer segmentation based on a machine learning model, etc. Then you have a more rudimentary, a simpler customer segmentation, which you actually might be doing. It's rudimentary, but it's still very powerful. So for example, I wanna create a segment based on customer consent. So basically, I just want all the customers who, when they saw my campaign, check that little box at the end that says, yes, Microsoft can contact me, or your company can contact me, etc., or you can share my data or whatever. So if it is equal to true, put these customers in a category, and the rest will do something else different. So here, this is another thing that allows you to stay compliant in your data management. Of course, this type of rules, you can add some others based on some other criteria from your customers. That's the second way you can do segmentation. And then you can also create measures. So for those of you who have some experience in data warehouse and in creating those star schemas, you would be familiar with the term measures. That's pretty much the same thing. So a measure is basically a new calculation that you do from your data. For example, this could be average transaction value, total transaction value, transaction count, etc. And you want to add a new column in each one of your customer that tells you what is the loyalty point that this customer has earned, etc., etc. So it's a calculated data that you didn't have before, but you can add it as a measure. So you can also add measures, and these also can be used as a tool to segment your customers. Bottom line, once you do all that work, you might end up with a view like this. So you might have multiple segments. So average spend high, with high churn, all the customers with open cases. So this doesn't require a machine learning model, right? Lifetime value would require a machine learning model, etc. So you can have different types of segmentation, different types of measures. You might have enrich your data with further activities, etc., etc. So now see the type of analysis that we've done, etc. Now, there's another question that you might ask me. Where is all this data sitting? So this data is consolidated in a data lake. So it's either a data lake that is provisioned with your customer insight, or you can bring your own data lake, right? You're like, I want this data to go there. I want to work on my analysis by myself. I don't want to use the analysis tool of customer insights. I want to do it in-house. That's also fine. So you can let customer insights do all the integration for you, and maybe you have your own team of analysts who will do that work for you. So all this data sits in a data lake, and here what you see is Synapse. So Synapse is our data warehouse offering. It used to be called SQL Data Warehouse. Now it's called Synapse. It's a data warehouse. It's an analytics platform, very powerful one. And this is what it looks like. So it allows you, for example, for this website and social analytics, it does the decomposition tree for you. So for example, for all the visits that we had, how many checked enjoy the moment, how many was in Asia Pacific, how many was in Japan, etc., etc. What are the different pages that they checked, etc. So you can do this type of analysis, and you run it out of Synapse. Why am I showing you this? Because Microsoft, as you know, works a lot through its network of partners. We have a lot of partners. We do so much business with our partners and so much work. That's why we're with Data Pilot today. It's one of our partners as well. So you, as a customer, you might have your trusted partner that you do a lot of work with and that can do your analysis. So they can work with this data lake data, and they do their own visuals. Maybe you have your own branding, etc., etc., that you want to put in your report. So what I want to show you, for example, is an example that Data Pilot has done. So taking all of that data from the data lake, then they were able to produce some reports like this. So again, lifetime value analysis, and it would look like this. which this is an actual customer case, anonymized, of course, that they were able to produce. I have another, there's another customer, custom report from Data Pilot where you see the evolution of the lifetime value, the top 10 customers, and things like that. So these are things that you can do with your own partners. So we are a very open, this platform, although it's SaaS platform, it's still very open, has a lot of connectors. Again, another type of segmentation example. So you can have the city demographics, you can have affinities and likes of customers from your social media. So these are all the things that you can do once you have the data unified and with all the plethora of analytics and AI services that we have. So I hope so far you've seen what we mean by own your relationship, by unlocking your data, unification, unique ID, customer 360 view, how you can create raving fans by doing analysis that can allow you to know your customers better, do model predictions, etc., etc. Now that we've done all this, I'm sure the marketers in the call are waiting. Okay, when do I start? When do I do my campaign? When do I do my customer journey? When do I send my emails? When do I do all that, right? I'm sure that's what we want. So that's the piece where we like engage beyond ads. We're not just going to do advertisement. There's more that we can do. And this is where we connect with customers at every stage of the customer journey. Now we have all the data. We know where they connect. We know what they like, hopefully. And now we can have meaningful interactions. Okay, let's go one step behind. What do we mean by that? We want to be able to deliver a consistent brand experience with a shared view of every customer across commerce, sales, services, and marketing. That's very important, a shared view of every customer. I don't want my marketing team to see a view and my sales team to see a view and the commerce team to see a view, etc. One view, everybody sees the same thing. And hopefully now it's clear for you how this is achieved through the unification that we did. So now that I unified the data, my other team have access to that customer profile, right? I want to orchestrate a journey in real time based on customers' action and feedback. Now, some people might be saying, okay, real time, how do you do that? I'll show you in a second. Improve upselling and cross-selling with AI-driven recommendations, surfacing the right products at the right time. That was our prediction of the next best action. But now, how can we, our marketers and sales team, use that? And frictionless and consistent experience across physical and digital channels. We want a continuum. It's not because you were in a point of sale system in a shop and later you get on the website that now all of a sudden you're disconnected. Okay. So let's go again a bit deeper. So we want to be able to orchestrate a customer journey. And I'm sure marketers will love this. And I'll get into details a little bit on how you can create a customer journey, basically, across the different touch points, etc. You want to be able also to export this data and those insights into the applications and first and third party applications that you use to orchestrate your marketing efforts, because I'm sure everyone is using their favorite product, etc. So let's go a little bit under the hood again. So I want to create a customer journey. So I can create a customer journey either event-based or segment-based. And hopefully now you know what I mean by segment. So I have a segment, I created it either through my machine learning model or through some demographics or data that they have, and I want to do this journey for them. Or event-based, customer did something, and I want to create, tackle them in a certain way. So let's go a little bit. So let's look at this event-based customer journey. This is a customer journey that you might have in store. So think of all your customers who have stores. Think, or yourself, if we have people in the call who are retailers and have stores. Think of when people or maybe hotels, actually, anybody, libraries, when the customer connects to the Wi-Fi. Then I check, do they have a loyalty member or no? If they have a loyalty member, I want to do an A/B test and offer them an experiment. So this experiment in version A, I want to offer them an in-store exclusive offer or a recommendation just for you, right? So maybe if I'm in a hotel, this could be like, okay, maybe try spa, try a fitness class, try something. If I'm in a coffee shop, try this coffee or try this donut or whatever. This kind of things that I want to try. And there I have A/B testing to see which one works better. If this is not a loyalty customer, then I first check what is the best best channel to communicate with this customer? And hopefully from what I've just shown you before, we would have this data. We would have gathered it somewhere. What's the best channel to communicate? So I send them, okay, if you sign up with me, I give you 500 points of loyalty. If you sign up with me, I give you, or here I can have another 500 points loyalty, but this time through the mobile, this time through a text, or maybe something different. And then I see which one worked. The numbers here would be, out of all the 4,100 customers, how many ended up in version A, version B, how many ended up through the SMS, how many ended up through maybe a push notification in the app, etc. So this is what we mean by a customer journey. And then as marketers, we can adjust. This seems not to work that much, or maybe we have less customers here, etc. So we can decide all of these. We can also have, when I said earlier, the real-time piece. So for example, when you can send a survey, and we can have push notifications as well through the platform. We're still in Dynamics Marketing, and you can send them through a text, you can send them a survey through the app, through emails, etc., etc. So here, if the survey has been submitted, then you say thank you. If the survey has not been submitted, then you send them a reminder, etc. So you keep nurturing the relationship with the customer. When you send them a reminder, the customer says, oh, they actually care that I did not fill out the survey. So that's also a touch point where you grab them even further. Couple things I want to add also. One very important aspect for marketers is to assess all of these campaigns and customer journey that we've done. This is very, very important. So I have here my journey, reward journey, loyalty conversion, social push, etc., etc. Here is their status, how many days they were active, what is the inflow. Did I meet the goal? This is off track, on track, goal accomplished. So I know from here, all right, this one is off track. Probably this reward journey is not working, or maybe I need to adjust it. But as it is right now, it's not giving me the results I want. However, these two, free delivery and loyalty conversion, they're on track. So that's pretty good. And I can see all that. I can see why people entered my journey. Maybe they connected to Wi-Fi, maybe they opened an email, etc. So here I know which channel works better. When we say channel optimization, that's one of the things that we talk about. Again, I was able to do this because I did a segmentation prior, and you've seen how this segmentation worked. If I didn't have this segmentation, I wouldn't be able to have accurate data here. So hopefully you see how everything comes together. It all starts with your unified data, and then we have those models that are relevant, and then all of a sudden I have actionable insights for all my marketers. Last but not least, of course, you have different apps and tools that you might be using. So you might be working on LinkedIn or doing Facebook ads or MailChimp, etc., etc. You also have the ability to export those insights into your favorite marketing marketing platform. And you can also have custom applications. I just gave a little example. This is a demo in Power Apps. This is one of our suite. It allows you to automate processes, etc. So you might have a customer and you want to, in a store, you want to activate, you want to do a quick action through people who are working in the store. They might have their tablets and they have this application and they see, okay, Jennifer just came in here. All right, I have her data. Maybe I can offer her a free coffee, or I can offer her a cake or something. So these are the things that allow you to make the customer feel special and feel known and feel like they have a status with us. They're not treated as if they have never spent time and money with us before. So all in all, this is what we mean when we say a customer experience. This is what, with everything I showed you so far, you understand what we mean by own your customer's journey and the relationship, own your customer relationship, sorry. What we mean when we say let's create raving fans and how you achieve it, and what we mean when we say create beyond ads. All of this is achieved through all the elements that you see here in the slide. And of course, the very first important point is data, unifying data, consolidating it, 360 view of the customer, robust analytics and machine learning capabilities as well, and then being agile in the engagement, having a platform that allows you to try campaigns and adjust when things don't work quickly. So with that, hopefully this was very interesting to you. Hopefully we'll get a lot of questions. Hopefully the next step you will do will be to call Ali or call Alina and be like, okay, I want to get started. How do we do all of this? And hopefully you've seen now what we mean by a customer experience. And when your CEO is going to come and ask you about it, you'll have an answer. Or if you're a CEO, and now you have a little bit of details of how to go about it. And for all of you who are in the information technology aspect and you want to get into using customer experience platform, reach out to your Microsoft professional. If not, you can reach out to me. You have my credentials and we can work together. With that, I'm done. And I'll hand it over to you, Alina and Ali, if you want to add something, and if we have any questions from the audience.
Great.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. Cannot even believe that you had so much knowledge to share, and I have no idea right now where to begin and how to thank you for this. But just a reminder, guys, that Data Pilot can help you achieve your data dreams. Whatever services you require, if you just want to explore more, just reach out. And if you have any questions now, we'll move on to the questions. Salila can answer those for you. I think we do have one question. Okay. This is from Hiba, and Hiba asks how to convince traditional companies to embrace data-driven practices.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Oh, actually, I can see the chat. Would you mind saying it again?
Yeah. So there's a questions option. You can check it there as well. It says how to convince traditional companies to embrace data-driven practices.
How to convince traditional companies to embrace data-driven practices. Is that right? Okay, I assume that's right. So it's a journey, and hopefully through the steps that I've just outlined, you have clarity on the prerequisites, right? So we're not gonna go right away and jump into AI and ML and all of that, because when they will see it, because we need first to do the data modernization, we need to do the data consolidation. If we start and jump with the fancy shiny things, then maybe they'll go along with us, but it's not going to work, and they're going to be even more reticent. It's like, oh, I told you it's not going to work, so we're not going to do that. So it's a journey. It's step by step. So they first have to try something that is a bit similar. Like, do you have a good database? We have some BIs? It's good to show them some insights. Nothing fancy, just a good report with some insights. Do some consolidations and then see that this helps them with their business. Maybe just a basic, if you take a SQL server, let's just go to that basics, and you have basic customer data, you do a similar and a small analysis, and you're like, okay, you have some customers who do this, some customers do that. So they already taste and they're like, okay, this can actually help me. And then we go even further and further, but we always set the expectation of the data consolidation, the investment that needs to be done from that side. Another front also, which I didn't speak about in this talk, is the skills, because sometimes the traditional companies, they say no because they're aware of the skills that are required. I said data scientists a couple of times, I said data analysts, architects at some points. Are all the companies have those skills in-house? Maybe not. They need to be accompanied, so we need to educate them on working with partners, but they also need some skills in-house. So sometimes there's a reality of who they have in-house that make them reticent. Okay, I'm going to start this project, but who's going to carry it with me? So these are all realities that we see. So I would say start small with the companies, be very realistic and frank, show them some quick wins little by little, and then work with their teams, set the expectation that there is a transformation that needs to happen in terms of the skills. They have nothing big, of course, but at least they need in-house some skills to understand, to give directions, etc. So hopefully once you've focused on these two, then they would have tasted something, they would have tasted the impact of what analytics can do for them at a small scale. In general, they will go with you. They will be like, okay, let's go even further. But often we're guilty of wanting to push them to the to run a marathon when they need to crawl first before we go there. So hopefully that answers your question.
Very nicely put. We have another question. How do you decide what data do you require to understand and curate that customer journey?
I have a rule, and maybe we can debate that, but in general, if I work with a customer, I don't discriminate, because I don't know beforehand where the data is. And maybe there is an obscure data source, like some Excel files that is maintained by somebody, and that has crucial information. So
Yeah.
I would say at the beginning, get all the data, let's put it together. And let's do that unification process. Yes, the tools makes it a lot simpler, so that you can focus on the business aspect of it, so that the people who know the data can come together and put it together. So I would say, don't discriminate, don't decide. Let's see what you have, and then start doing the connection. And little by little, you'll see, okay, this data doesn't do much for us. This data is critical, etc., etc. So that's it. It's a process. And eventually, what happens often is that once you have your first skeleton of your data model, it will come to you that you have a gap somewhere. You're like, okay, maybe we're not collecting customer surveys. Maybe that's a data that we should start collecting. So you engage into another project where you start from now on collecting the data, and then it becomes a living organism. Basically, your data gets enriched as we go. So I would say, do not discriminate. Maybe somebody would disagree with here, but that's my approach. That's why I usually advise.
Great. Talila, just one question. A lot of companies find it really hard to adopt these data-driven practices within their company due to cultural issues, and a lot of the times, sometimes the top management is not really fond, like they think these are fancy terms, and sometimes they don't really believe in going data driven. And digital transformation is a big challenge for the like a lot of organizations, even like some top MNCs I've talked to in Pakistan are resistant to change and resistant to adopting these practices in order to become more data driven, because they feel that there's several reasons to it. Sometimes the employees are not really open to changing the way they work, and sometimes the top management, there's no buy-in from the top management. So my question
Yeah.
is, how do you cater to these sort of environments where obviously going data driven is critical, but they don't realize the importance of taking data driven decisions in order to reduce cost or increase revenue?
Yeah. So it's, you use the word, it's a transformation, right? And I'm not one to do a big bang, because not all companies can do big bangs. Some company might. They're like, okay, we're gonna switch and we're doing all that, but some of them don't. We also have to respect a little bit and understand why they are reticent, right? There are some cases where it's just somebody who just doesn't want to bother. I am in my position for maybe a year or two. I don't want to engage in a big project. My successor would do it. You have that case. And you have some cases, in that case, you don't have support from top management. Maybe it's not the right time to go, or you might try to influence, etc. But you have also some cases where you have people who are aware, like they've been to the webinars, they've been to the conferences, they've tried some POCs, they've tried things like that, but there is a reality of their organization where they're like, okay, I have revenue that I need to drive, and I know that I'm lacking skills, for example, technical skills, etc. I'm lacking the budget for training. I know that I don't have a clear direction or time where I can spend, where to prioritize which area of my business would I prioritize for this analytics, etc. So their customers do have their conditions, their situations. So a lot of time, it's very important to have enough connection with them to understand where the blocker is. It's not always the case that they just don't want because they don't want. They might want, but they just can't, period, for several reasons. As far as we're concerned, at least, not just us, but as companies in general, is to see how we can support them in transformation through different angles. For example, from skilling point of view, if you talk to a CEO and it tells you, you tell me about data analytics, I have nobody. Can you help me? We have, for example, something in Microsoft called an enterprise skilling initiative, where we train people. We have customers, people, we train them on whatever skill that is needed. For example, in this talk here that I gave, they would be skilled on analytics, they would be skilled on data platform, they would be skilled on dynamics, etc., etc. That's one piece of it. Then how do your processes, because at the end of the day, the action is on marketers and sellers, right? These are the ones that need to action and adopt those tools. Do I have a clarity on how I'm going to change the way they do their work without compromising on their current campaigns and revenue responsibilities, etc.? So there is a change that I need to drive with them. And then there is the piece of the ROI, right? I'm going to take one department, one project, and this is the one that I will prioritize, etc. So in general, when you and there's 4 or 5 other aspects that we need to address when we drive those projects with reticent customers. And this is the proposal, complete proposal that CEO would have to be convinced with. So if you have enough accompaniment, if they have enough budget, if they have enough time and project management resources that can support, they would go along with you. Again, no big bang. It's a journey. It can be 3 years journey. Sometimes it can be 4 or 5 years journey, etc. They need to be helped and reassured that they're not gonna shatter everything on all the foundations they've had to achieve something that they're not even sure will work, etc. So I would say step by step, change management, you put it in your question, is very big. And maybe we have some companies, people from different companies here. Consortiums are important. If you're skilled in change management, if you're skilled in training, if you're skilled in data platform, if you're skilled in dynamics, come together, and that's how we can help. We can help a customer. I'm talking here about a big customers with a lot of challenges, etc. Long answer, but again, there is no magic wand. It's not because they see a fancy Power BI that they will jump on it. All of these are the underlying aspects of the iceberg.
Perfect.
Right.
So we have another question from a data scientist at Bazaar. Bazaar is one of the top startups in Pakistan right now. And this person is asking that how to prioritize data science problems. There are many data science problems and use cases. What factors and metrics should we use to decide which problems to pick first?
That's a very good question. And why this question is important is because go back 4 or 5 years, there was so much hype around AI. Before, there was so much hype around big data, so much hype around AI, so much hype about ML. People jumped right away to AI and ML without doing the unification foundation, which I talked about, and they got disappointed. That's a reality. We have a lot of customers who are not, yeah, no, I tried that thing, doesn't work, right? And there are a couple reasons why things don't work. A big reason I addressed, which is the quality of the data. And that data scientist, I didn't recall your name, but you know that we need that data to be nice. We all hope that we'll get that nice CSV file, but that's not always the case. So data is a primary one. Skill is a second one. I touched upon it. The third one is being very selective on the project that will have a direct correlation on the ROI of the company, or at least a business priority. And at first sight, this could be like obvious, of course, yeah. We're a sales company, we're going to do segmentation. Of course, it's going to help us. We're going to do trend predictions. Of course, that's going to help us. That's what you should prioritize. Is it? It's not always clear how to quantify the ROI. And for two reasons. The first one is that, as any data scientist knows, machine learning models take time. It's not because you finished it today, you deploy it, it's going to give you the best recommendations. No. A lot of time it's not going to give you good recommendations, but if you let it run and enrich it with data long enough, it's going to become very accurate. A lot of times companies are fast. Okay, you told us this works, I want to see the first one. So they don't give it time. Or sometimes the expectation was not properly set in educating customers on this front. So that is very important. And the second thing, having the business owners also involved, having some understanding of how things work so that they guide you, Mr. and Mrs. Data Scientist, on which problems are the most important. So if customer segmentation is really the one that we should focus on, lifetime value of the customer is the one that we should focus on, I want to have the marketing people with me in the room or the sales people with me in the room, and we agree with them that is what they will be using, and they need to be with us in the first version of the model, run and giving us the feedback, etc., etc. So there are two components to it. You definitely have to have the business people on board with you. A lot of times what we see now in the structures of the enterprises is that the data scientists are in the statistics units or they are in IT. They're very far from the business. And sometimes they meet and meetings and they're like, okay, what did you do? How is that running? That's not how it works. Some companies have transformed, and now there is a digital unit, right? So you see those data scientists with people from that are in charge of doing marketing, digitization of marketing or things like that, right? But what we would like to see more is those data scientists sitting with those marketing people, sitting with them and iterating. This doesn't happen yet. So to answer the question, the first part is prioritizing the ROI of the machine learning model is difficult to do. It's not an easy answer, but you can make it easy for you by having frequent contact with the business and having them involved in the selection of which algorithm is there and setting the right expectation with them. That is how we go about it. And again, I don't see it happen a lot, but whenever we engage with customers, that's what I push for. Like, these are the teams and involvement that we should do. So as a data scientist, I would say you don't prioritize. Your business owner should be the one prioritizing for you, and you work with them to make it happen.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was amazing, an amazing answer again. And this is exactly what we tell our clients at Data Pilot, that all the machine learning models, they need time to optimize. You need to feed them well, and then they would take over a lot of issues for you, but nurture them in a way. We have another question from Ali Babar, and he asks, he first compliments you that you've amazingly covered the analytics part related to customer experience. His question is regarding AI. How does AI add value for any organization with respect to customer experience?
How does it add value with respect to customer experience? Okay, so I covered some of it in the talk. It does add value when it reaches the customer at the right time. Okay, so if I am scrolling through the website, and hopefully my customer insight is linked to the website, so I know that the customer has been scrolling and the customer is checking for, I don't know, cars, car seats, phones, then the AI model that would be the best at that point should relate to that experience. Next best action, so proposal of a product, maybe proposal of different options, maybe a reminder, oh, okay, because you bought that thing last month, our customers frequently buy these things together, so now I saw you looking at this, so maybe you should propose that, etc. So that timeliness is important. If I'm looking at a car and then you give me a recommendation on, I don't know, a hotel or something like that, maybe maybe that's not going to be relevant. It's still a good model. That hotel might still be good for me, for my demographics, etc., but that's not the right time. So timeliness is very important. Obviously accuracy, right? Like the accuracy of the model, and that goes on to training. And also I would add that a lot of time we jump into AI, but we didn't explore good analytics, you know, like good measures, like the measures that I showed earlier. Some analysis that can be very basic SQL, but good insight. And that's the insight that you can bring to your customers. So maybe when you remind them, hey, last month you checked this thing, do you still want to continue with it, etc. There's no AI in here. It's just a query of what they checked last time and they didn't do anything, but that's relevant at the moment. So I would say an AI that adds value is an AI model that meets the customer at the right time, given all the analytics that we showed at the different points, etc., and that adds some relevance. And I would add even more, it's not just an AI that adds value, it's an insight that adds value. Whether you got it through because you run an AI model or a simple SQL query. Sometimes we discount SQL queries because we're the spotlight is on the AI, but you know, some good analytics is always can give you a lot of added value. So that would be the primary thing that makes it add value.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. And one last question before we end this, which is by Ramsha, and she asks, can you please share if it's only the responsibility of product or UX designers to gather data insights and to analyze customer data? And if yes, then how should they balance?
It's both. It's both. So you have a product. And by product, I mean, let's say that you have a website, your, I don't know, hotels.com or airline.com something. So that's a product, right? That's your product. And as a product owner, your objective from this product is to generate more sales, more revenue, customer satisfaction, etc., etc. So that's your first ownership. One way to do that is to work with your UX designers, and you have to give them enough freedom so that they apply the best practices of UX on your website. I'm not a UX expert, but I know when a website has a bad UX. So I cannot tell you how to make a good UX, but when I see bad UX, I know this is not working. Why? Because as a customer, we've been educated without even realizing it with good UX. We've seen some good UX in some websites, and then we go to another one and we're like, okay, I'm bored with this. No, why are you asking me this data? Why couldn't you figure it out? We've all experienced good chatbots and bad chatbots, right? So it's a mix. It's both of them. As a UX designer, you're doing the UX, the experience of the customers through the website, through the app, their flow, how to make it as seamless as possible and as easy as possible so that they don't get away from the from the website because they're bored. But as a product, you're the one who's owning at the end what is the objective of why your customer is there. You might have an amazing UX experience, but at the end you might be exploring stuff in the website, but you don't end up buying anything, right? So you have to be razor focused on what is the objective. Both of them should be in the team. Again, just like the data scientists with the business owners, they shouldn't be in different teams. They should be in the same team, iterating together. And the UX designer needs to get the feedback on, okay, these are the UI, the UX, the UI UX components that I've put there. Do they work? How do we measure them, etc.? And that's the product owner that can help as well bring some reality. So again, no pass for them. They have both to be on that website, app, experience, whatever it is.
Perfect. Thank you so much. With that, I think we'll wrap this up. Dalila, thank you so much for taking up the time and guiding us through this. I hope that all the attendees of the webinar could benefit and can benefit in the future from whatever we discussed today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Dalila.
Bye-bye.
Bye.